Come on in, you guys. We have a brand new episode of Jimmy Rants in store for you. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, if you want to engage live in the content, you need to go follow me. I'm over on Instagram Live. Follow at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVIN LOWCARBMAN. Once you are there, you can engage live in the content. We also simulcast both on my personal Facebook page, so thank you guys for being here, as well as on YouTube Live. I've been trying to do a little more of the live videos for my YouTube crowd. You guys usually get to see this on replay, and you still will get to see it on replay at YouTube, but live, so that's kind of cool, right? Over here on Instagram, so it is up for 24 hours over on Instagram after it airs, so you can watch it on replay that way. You can also go to JimmyRants.com, see the archives there, or over on YouTube. We do post all of them at YouTube, youtube.com/livinglowcarbman, or just do a keyword search, Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. So guys, I want to do a Jimmy Rants here today that I thought would be really interesting, since so many parents are having to homeschool their kids now. For most of the country, they shut down all the schools, and for some parts of the country, they shut down schools for the rest of the year. Of course, we're at the end of the school year here in early May. A lot of kids are already done, but some of them are still doing school. And one of the parents, you guys, sent me a very interesting piece of information on my Instagram DM this week. Shout out to Megan Adams. Her username on Instagram here at Mega Journey, MEGAJOURNEY, and she got a copy of an elementary school cookbook that her daughter was using, and she told me it was published in 2016, and so she sent me the little copyright date so you could see 2016 is when it was published. So this is pretty recent, like within the past 4 or 5 years that this came out. And they had a portion of this elementary school cookbook published in 2016 that offered up basic guidelines for losing weight. And as you can imagine, if it's in a public school cookbook book where they're teaching about basic ways to lose weight, what do you think the advice was? So this should be interesting, right? And this is in a public school actual book that they're giving to elementary school students to learn about cooking. And in there, basic guidelines for losing weight. You're gonna lose your lunch over this one, you guys. Because just when you think the indoctrination about diet can't possibly be happening in public schools, wanna bet? Watch this. There are many diets and weight loss products available for those struggling to lose weight. Keep in mind, this is in an elementary school textbook teaching kids about diet and weight loss. The sad reality, however, is that most fad diets do not work. In the long run, people often regain even more weight than they originally lost. That's true of any diet. What's the fail rate of most diets? 95% of them, typically, people go on the diet, they get frustrated by it at some point, and then they go off the diet and gain the weight back. So that's not just specific diets that they label as a fad. That's pretty much every diet. But there is hope for those who want to shed extra pounds. The key to long-term weight reduction is gradual and permanent changes in lifestyle habits. So what, pray tell, could be these habits that they want you to change? And they have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 habits that they think you can have a gradual and permanent change in your lifestyle in order to lose weight. Are you guys ready for this? It's a doozy. Number 1, decrease the amount of total fat consumed. Okay. This was written in 2016, this textbook, 2016. By 2016, we've had ample evidence at that point that dietary fat is not the enemy in your health. The reason they believe decreasing the amount of total fat eaten is a good idea for weight loss is because 1 gram of fat has 9 calories as compared to the 4 calories in each gram of protein and or carbs. So that's why they believe cutting fat is the best bang for your buck in cutting calories, which would help you lose weight. What they fail to understand is that when you decrease the amount of calories coming from fat, it actually increases your consumption of calories coming mostly from carbohydrate, but maybe a little bit of protein. Protein pretty much stays constant with all diets. It's kind of hard to go much higher in protein regardless of the diet you do. There's kind of a self-limiting factor when it comes to protein, but carbohydrate, you can go way high on carbohydrate, or you can go high enough on fat to give you satiation. And so they say decrease the amount of total fat eaten. Fat has more than twice the calories of carbohydrates or protein. Thus, even small amounts of high-fat items such as butter, margarine's a high-fat margarine? Really? I mean, it's high, horrible fat, but it is fat, I suppose. Oil, which I assume they mean like vegetable oils, sauces, and gravies. Gravy has both carbohydrate and fat in it, so can contain large amounts of calories. So dietary fat is the nutrient most easily converted into body fat. No. Dietary fat is not the easiest converted over into body fat. The easiest thing converted into body fat is carbohydrate, specifically sugar and refined grains. Those get metabolized very quickly into body fat when consumed in excess. Because your body, yes, can store sugar from the carbohydrates that you consume. So you get the glycogen stores. When those tanks are all topped off in your muscles and there's nowhere else for that glucose to go, it has to be converted into stored body fat. The body doesn't know what to do with it other than creating body fat. When you eat dietary fat, it doesn't get converted easily into body fat, but that's what they're claiming in this elementary school textbook. I'm going to remind you, for those of you that came late, this is directly from a school cookbook published in 2016. It's offering up weight loss advice, and the very first thing is decrease the amount of total fat, because we know total dietary fat gets converted into body fat, and we don't know that because it's simply not true. Listen to this. Most of the carbohydrates and protein we eat are burned up before they're stored as fat. Burned up. Well, number one, protein does not get burned up. Protein cannot be stored. Protein is the only macronutrient that doesn't have a way to be stored in the body. There is not protein stores in the body. Protein gets converted. Number one, all the amino acids that your body needs will take those in, and your body will use those for what they need. But then excess protein then has to be converted into sugar, glucose, through the liver. There's a process called gluconeogenesis where that happens. Gluconeogenesis also happens a little bit with fat, but for the most part, protein does not get stored. It has to be converted into glucose. Carbohydrates do get stored as glucose, but then when the glycogen stores get topped off, it has to be converted into stored body fat. So that's the source of energy. Fat, actually, you can overconsume fat, but it's extremely hard because you would basically throw up before you would have too much fat. But this whole idea that dietary fat is the nutrient most easily converted into body fat, there is no evidence that shows that's true whatsoever. It's not. Yet that's what they're indoctrinating these kids with in this textbook. All right, let's get to the second one. Again, this is a school textbook from 2016. It's offering up weight loss advice. And the second suggestion is eat a variety of foods and do not restrict certain foods from the diet. In general, it is not the occasional food that keeps someone from achieving a desirable weight. It is what is eaten on a daily basis. For example, limit dessert to 1 or 2 times per week instead of each meal. Forbidding foods often makes them more desirable and may undermine weight loss efforts. Okay, that in general is not a bad idea, but it also assumes that everybody could probably have dessert. And this is the whole everything in moderation, eat a balanced diet. When I first read that eat a variety of foods, do not restrict certain foods from the diet, that's also a shot at ketogenic diets because we do restrict carbohydrates. But see, here's the thing. You have to remember, of the macronutrients, fat is essential. We have essential fatty acids that the body must have from your diet or you would die. Protein is essential as well because you have essential amino acids. These are very specific elements that only come from the foods that you eat. Your body can't make amino acids, not all of them anyway, and so you need to consume protein in order to get those amino acids. The only macronutrient that is not required by the body, you have no nutritional requirement for, is carbohydrate. And so if you limit your carbohydrates, it's no big deal to be restricting that food group, that food category. Doesn't mean you have to eliminate them altogether. Some people do. The carnivore people pretty much eat no carbs. But even on a ketogenic diet, a lot of people can be keto and stay in ketosis up to 50 grams of total carbohydrate. That's a lot of carbs. Others of us need to keep it much lower than that. But they were taking a little bit of a shot at that. Of course, it cuts both ways when you have the vegans and the vegetarians that are low fat, when you kind of cut that out. And in fact, in their very first one, decreasing the amount of total fat, that's eliminating kind of a category of food. And yet the very next one, do not restrict certain foods from the diet. Well, if you're telling me to cut fat, you're making me restrict certain foods from my diet. So they're already contradicting themselves in this article. Number 3, way to lose weight, according to this school textbook from 2016, eat breakfast. People who eat breakfast are generally more successful at losing weight. I know where this comes from. So there were some studies right about a decade ago that came out. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So therefore, those of you who eat breakfast, you tend to eat less calories over the course of the day, and thus eating less calories, you lose weight. The only problem is, who gets to define what breakfast means? I wrote a book with Dr. Jason Fung about fasting called The Complete Guide to Fasting, and in there, we talk about this whole idea of breakfast being the most important meal of the day, and whether you need to eat breakfast. And we came to the conclusion that yes, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and you should eat breakfast, as they're saying here. The only thing is you don't have to eat it at 8 o'clock in the morning. Your break fast, which is literally what breakfast means, your break fast, look at the word, it's called break fast. Your break fast is when you break your fast. So let's say you eat your last meal at 6 p.m. the night before, you wake up the next morning, you're not hungry yet. Maybe you have a cup of coffee, maybe you have a green tea, whatever you have in the mornings. Then at noon or 1, you start to get hungry and you break your fast. So therefore your break fast, your breakfast, is at 12 or 1. So eat breakfast. I know that's not what they meant, but that is truth. People who eat breakfast are generally more successful at losing weight. That doesn't even make sense. Like, think about the typical American breakfast too. Donuts, danishes, fast food. Do you think those people who consume that stuff in the morning suddenly just find a way to easily be successful at weight loss? I was just listening back to one of my interviews I did recently with Mike Gorman. Gormy is what he goes by here on Instagram. And Gormy and I were talking about how we used to eat. He used to be over 500 pounds. I used to weigh over 400 pounds. And one of the telltale signs of how we got bigger was we both went to fast food for breakfast. And so we would both get up, go to work. And on the way to work, we both stopped at McDonald's. We both got a couple of breakfast sandwiches and soda. And before we even got to work, we had already consumed all of that, stopped at a convenience store, got more food, came to work, ate that food, and then at our desk had more food and snacks, then went out for lunch to another fast food, ate that food, and then got off work and went to another food. We were constantly eating. Do you think that breakfast that we had, simply eating breakfast randomly, without regard to the quality or whether we needed it or not. Do you think that helped us lose weight? No, we packed on pounds, heavily so. For Gorman, to the tune of 500 plus pounds. For Jimmy Moore, over 400 pounds. Go listen to that, llvlc.com. Really fascinating. It was a few weeks ago I talked to him, but I listened back to it today. And man, just so much good stuff in there about the mindset. And them just saying, eat breakfast. That is so generic. Like, do you know how useless of information that is to just tell people, just eat breakfast and you'll lose weight? Not that simple. Now, if you decide to eat breakfast and you have eggs and bacon and avocado, okay, yeah, you're probably going to feel sated. You're going to be able to go many hours without eating. After you have that meal, you're going to be satisfied. You're not going to be stoking hunger. Maybe you will lose weight if you eat that way. But they just say eat breakfast. People who eat breakfast are generally more successful at losing weight. You eat a bagel, donuts, pastries, fast food, I guarantee you're not going to lose weight. You're not. Even if that's all you eat the whole day, enough people will be starving doing that. And I don't see how they would lose weight doing that. All right, next one. Eat single portions of food and then give the body time to signal that it's full. Often we eat so fast that the second portion of food is almost gone before the body can signal that it was satisfied after the first portion. Put down the fork or spoon between each bite. Well, in general, eating slower is a good idea. In general, being mindful and savoring food as you're eating it is always a good idea. I'm not sure what this eat single portions of food and give time before you give that second portion of food. What are they talking about? Portions. Are you talking about like having your food, like half of your food over here and half over here? Well, you got 12 minutes to get this one done, so eat slow enough, but don't start on that second part. It's so weird. Like, who eats that way? But in general, I agree with that one. Slowing down, eating, savoring. And here's the thing. When the food is delicious and rich and like a ketogenic meal, like let's say steak and vegetables with butter, like savor every single bite of that. I think that in general is a good idea. But again, these are weight loss tips. That's kind of a weird one for weight loss, because what if you're savoring a pizza? Is that going to help you lose weight? I don't know. I don't think so. Next one. This is the funny one. Eat a diet that is high in complex carbohydrates. I remember when I first came online, people are like, well, you low-carb diet people, you don't distinguish between simple carbohydrates, the refined carbohydrates like sugars and grains, and the complex carbohydrates like whole grains. And I kept thinking to myself, all right, show me what a whole grain looks like. And so people would show pictures of whole grain bread, whole wheat bread, and I'm like, refined. It's all refined. Yeah, there's little chunks of stuff in there. It's still refined. Show me the whole grain. And nobody could show me what whole grain looked like, because I'm like, if you actually ate grains in their whole form, you would break your teeth trying to eat them. And yet that's what they're trying to pretend like we should all be eating, whole grains. Okay, great. This includes breads. There is not a bread that does not have some refinement to it. That is the silliest thing. Like when you go down a bread aisle in a grocery store, do this the next time you go. Look how many claims of whole grain. Oh, made with 14 essential whole grains. Number one, there is no essential grain. Same in the cereal aisle. Oh, made with 27 whole grains. I'm like, you look at it and it's about the refinest of refined grains you've ever seen in your life. Whole grain has become a marketing term, not a health claim. Cereals, they mentioned that. Again, refined. Pasta, there's no whole grains in pasta. There's lots of refined grains. You see how they bamboozle us? Rice, okay, maybe rice is a whole grain. It's not healthy, but it is a whole grain. Other kinds of grains, fruits and vegetables. Although many weight loss diets in the past have limited starchy foods, what are they talking about? Limit starchy food? Are we talking about the Atkins diet? Is that what they're referring to? It is the high-fat items that often accompany these foods that inhibit weight loss efforts, not the starchy foods themselves. So, those of you that have been on a keto diet and you've been not eating potatoes, it's not the potato that's the problem. It's when you slather that potato with butter and sour cream and cheese and bacon and all that high-fat food that is packing on the pounds. They really believe this stuff, you guys. This is the interesting part. They think that the culprit is all the high-fat foods and not the starch itself. And all you have to do is pull out a blood glucose meter. Eat a plain, nasty, disgusting, has tasteless potato or plain Jane white rice, and you watch what happens on your blood sugar meter. It goes completely wackadoodle. I guarantee you, almost everyone who consumes a normal portion of potato or rice or any other kind of starchy vegetable is going to see their blood sugar go up. How do they explain that? Well, number one, they don't want you testing your blood sugar because that kind of bursts their bubble of what they're trying to accomplish here. Everything in this weight loss advice in this school textbook, again, this is an elementary school textbook teaching kids about cooking and all that. And this portion of basic guidelines for losing weight, they're trying to indoctrinate them that it's all about all of this stuff that's pretty much shown up in our dietary guidelines for decades. But they want to make it sound like, oh, you need foods high in complex carbohydrates. Every type 1 diabetic will tell you complex carbohydrates raise your blood sugar just as much as regular carbohydrates of other refined carbohydrates. Just as much. So trying to tease out, well, complex carbohydrates are the healthy carbohydrates as compared to the refined ones. Okay, the refined ones might spike your blood sugar quicker, but you still get a blood sugar response. And I'll tell you, some keto people, they're so sensitive to carbohydrates, even things like spinach and broccoli can raise their blood sugar as well. Now, not fast, but it does raise it. So to just say carte blanche, eat foods high in complex carbohydrates, and then list bread, cereal, pasta, rice, grains, fruits, and vegetables, it's a recipe for disaster for a lot of people. All right, next one, basic guide for losing weight. Exercise. Aerobic exercise is an excellent way to achieve and maintain weight. No, an excellent way to achieve and maintain weight with exercise is not aerobic exercise. I would argue that high-intensity interval training is far superior to aerobic exercise. So aerobic exercise is just like think of the Jane Fonda workout videos. That was aerobic exercise. Running on a treadmill, elliptical machine. Those are all fine if you want to do those. But a much more efficient way to lose weight, at least based on the science that I've heard about and interviewed people about, the best way is HIIT training, high intensity interval training, where you do kind of all out bursts of energy for like 20 to 30 seconds. And then you recover for like a minute, and then bursts of energy, 20 to 30 seconds, and then you recover a minute. And you do that like 8 to 10 reps, and you get in within about 20 minutes a really good workout. Also, strength training is another great way to lose weight and build muscle at the same time. Because what's the point of weight loss if you're not putting on some muscle? And muscle gain actually can help speed up your metabolism and give you lots of benefits as well that would help with weight loss. So they mentioned walking, jogging, biking, and rowing are examples of aerobic exercise. Before beginning any exercise, it's a good idea to consult your physician. Well, what's your physician going to say? I think you should walk on treadmill. Yeah, that's good. What does a doctor know about exercise physiology? Very little. All he would look at with exercise is, well, it's good for your cardiovascular and you'll probably lose weight because he doesn't know, but they always have to throw that caveat in there. If you're going to exercise, HIIT training, resistance training, those are the things that will help you the most. Next one, do not starve yourself. Low-calorie diets may slow your body's metabolism, making weight loss more difficult. This one tripped me up because what was the very first thing on their list? Decrease the amount of total fat eaten. What was the purpose of decreasing the total fat eaten? To lower calories. Now they're saying don't starve yourself by eating too few calories. They can't make up their mind here. Can you see even how an adult reading all of this so-called weight loss advice would get so confused? Decrease the amount of total fat, but don't starve yourself. How does that work? How do you determine what the right level of calories are? And let's not forget, when people are left to their own devices, what do? Oh, well, if 1,200 calories is healthy, 800 is far healthier than that. Oh, no. 800 calories, way too high. We're going to go down to 400 or 500 calories. You think I'm joking here, but that's the mentality that people have. And if you tell them to cut the calories from their total fat, but then you say, don't starve yourself, low-calorie diets can slow metabolism, they're not paying much attention to that because you told them cut your calories. This is why I think the calorie hypothesis was a big fat joke from the start. It put people on the wrong path of paying attention to something that really at the end of the day is not as relevant as the hormonal impact of the foods that they're eating anyway. And so do not starve yourself. And then the other thing about that do not starve yourself, it's discouraging people away from doing some fasting. Oh, if you're not eating any food at all, you are starving yourself. No. If you're actually doing complete fasting, in other words, no food at all in your diet, you are doing far better for your body than if you ate just a little bit of food. And I talked about this with my friend Megan Ramos on the Living La Vida Low Carb show this past week. Again, go look it up, llvlc.com. She's got a new book out with Dr. Jason Fung and Eve Meyer called Life in the Fasting Lane. Go check it out, you guys. But in there, in that interview, we talked about how when you eat no food at all, that is a perfect metabolic state for kind of kickstarting growth hormone, lowering insulin, lots of really good things happening in the body. And when you do that over a period of time, you get some benefits. Whereas if you have just a little bit of food, your body is thinking, okay, we are getting fed and why aren't you feeding me more? I need more food. If you're gonna feed me more food. And then you don't, your body starts to slow down the metabolism. And that's what they're warning about with this do not starve yourself. But no food at all is far better than just a little bit of food. And a lot of people make this mistake, especially when they're like fasting. They'll have just a little bit of food. Oh, I'm just hungry. Let me get a little bit of food. And then they go back to fasting, not realizing they just messed up the benefits they would have got from fasting. If you're going to fast, fast. If you're going to feast, feast. But don't do both halfway. If you're fasting and you get hungry, end your fast, eat normally, kind of do that a few days, and then go back to fasting again. I think it's a little bit difficult for people to understand that it's far better to eat no food at all if you're going to do that. That's not starving yourself. Starving yourself is where you have access to food or you don't have access to food and you can't eat. Fasting is where you have access to food, but you're choosing to abstain from it for a period of time for the health benefits. All right, there's two more. Lose weight slowly, 1 to 2 pounds per week is desirable. Most people who need to lose weight need to lose excess fat. The body can't burn off more than a few pounds of fat per week. Faster weight loss is probably due to muscle breakdown. Okay, let's get one thing straight right off the bat. You don't control how fast or slow your body loses weight. You just don't. And when you first start for a ketogenic, for example, ketogenic diet, you might see 10 to 15 pounds in 1 week, that first week. Of course, we talked about this before. Your body dumps a lot of water early on, and so you see a significant amount of weight loss. So this whole idea of 1 to 2 pounds per week is desirable. Okay, great. You don't want to lose it too fast, but this idea that you're going to be shedding muscle, if you're eating adequate protein, if you're eating enough essential fatty acids from the fats that you eat, you're minimizing your carbohydrates, that ketogenic state is going to preserve your muscle mass. So you don't lose muscle in the midst of doing a ketogenic diet, for example. And while you lose an initial, that maybe that first couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, you lose pretty good amount of weight pretty quickly, generally it does come down to probably about a 2 to 5 pound weight loss for a lot of people, depending on how much weight you need to lose. When I was 410 pounds, I lost very quickly the first 2-3 months, a lot of weight. And then it slowed down to about this 2 to 3 pounds a week. But to start off, it might be more than that. So to kind of like across the board, don't lose more than 1 or 2 pounds a week. Then people start adding in food so they don't lose weight too fast. I think that's just garbage. I get why they're saying that. You don't want to kind of stoke things that might make you slip back, but you're not going to be leaching muscle, which is what they're claiming in this article. Okay, the last one. Set a reasonable weight goal. Despite our society's obsession with thinness, it's not practical for most of us to expect to have the body of a model. Instead, setting a goal which is achievable and maintainable may over time result in greater physical and psychological health benefits. I mean, in general, that's a good idea. I remember when I weighed 410 pounds, I wanted to get down to a goal weight, and I set that number. And it was an arbitrary number. It didn't really have any kind of meaning per se. It just was, okay, I want to hit that number. I think a goal weight does a good job of mentally preparing you that I want to pursue some goal. Okay? It doesn't mean that if you don't hit that goal that you somehow failed. It doesn't mean if you way underdid your goal. Like they're saying, set a reasonable weight loss goal. I promise you, those of us that are go-getters, we're going to set a goal that's going to be a challenge. The last thing you want to do when you're 410 pounds is set a goal for 350 pounds, and you easily hit that, and you're like, okay, I hit my goal, yeah. Are you healthy at 350 pounds? Probably not. And I'm going to reframe this all together. I don't think you need to set weight loss goals at all. I think if you're going to set goals, why not set a goal of like what your average blood sugar will be? Why not set a goal for what level of triglycerides you want in your cholesterol panel? Why don't you set a goal for your inflammation marker being down? Why don't you set a goal for where your insulin will be? That's kind of what I've been pursuing in recent years, especially you guys, is all of these health markers that are a sign of robust metabolic health. And despite what happens to my weight, all of these signs of robust metabolic health are far more interesting and in the end, far more physically and psychologically beneficial to my health. I think the obsession about our weight, and they're right about that, we have an obsession with thinness. The reason is culture tells us you got to be thin or you're not healthy. But if you pursue health markers and make those your goals instead, then very easily you can set those as your goal and get all of these benefits that they're saying. So what'd you think about this? Again, this was sent to me, Megan Adams over on Instagram. Mega Journey is her username. And it was from a 2016 elementary school textbook about cooking. And it was basic guidelines for losing weight. Like just when I think we've made progress, then along comes something like that. And it makes you wonder, the editors that created that resource, are they living in the 1980s because they called and they want their nutrition advice back? Like all of that stuff is decades old information. We know better now. We've got better science now. Why are we indoctrinating kids with this same old failed diet advice that hasn't helped us at all? But there it is. All right, let's see what you guys have to say. We got 3 formats here today. We've got Instagram Live here, Facebook Live there, and YouTube Live right there. So let's get started on Instagram Live. Welcome in, welcome in. JimmyRants.com is the website as always. Downtown Vapors said, this week, my 85-year-old aunt was told to go low fat because of elevated cholesterol. Well, if she goes low fat, it will lower her LDL. Okay? Let me explain how that happens. LDL cholesterol is not just one number, as you well know. LDL is a multiplicity of numbers, but it basically comes down to large fluffy LDL, and small dense LDL. Well, what happens when you eat a low-fat diet is it lowers that large fluffy LDL, which is predicated on the amount of fat that you're consuming, especially from real whole food sources. And so it will very much, like a champ, lower her total cholesterol. But it's not making her healthier. Her triglycerides will go up, which will be reflected in the VLDL. If she cuts her fat, it will also lower her HDL. So not only is she destroying the good LDL, she's destroying all the bad or all of the good HDL cholesterol. It basically will destroy it. And then the triglycerides will go up, but that doesn't really show up a lot in your total cholesterol. So yes, the doctor will see what they want, but the problem is 85 years old, Downtown Bakers, the average cholesterol of someone in their 80s, like your aunt, the average in traditional cultures, free from heart disease, average is 300 total cholesterol. I would dare say she's probably right there or a little bit below. So if she cuts her fat, she's going to make herself more susceptible to heart disease, more susceptible to Alzheimer's and other brain health issues. It's a very bad idea. And he's probably also pushing a statin medication on her, which will just precipitate her decline. I hope you can educate her. Obviously, I wrote a book about cholesterol called Cholesterol Clarity, What the HDL is Wrong with My Numbers. Go check it out. Give her a copy if you think she would be open to the information. Arian wants to know, I want to know why butter makes me full more than soy oil and hydrogenated oils. Well, yeah, it's simple. Butter is a whole food. Those others are man-made, and those others are also an omega-6 fat, and omega-6 fats do not give the satiations nearly like saturated fats. And if you're getting grass-fed butter, you're getting a little bit of omega-3 fats in there as well. There's also butyric acid. There's a lot of really good things in butter, especially good quality grass-fed butter. The seed oils are doing nothing positive for your body. So you're getting a lot of inflammation from those oils. Just stay away from the vegetable oils, the seed oils. They're definitely not doing your body any good. Cariana says coffee with ghee and coconut oil equals the breakfast of champions. Yeah, a lot of people like kind of that bulletproof fatty coffee in the morning. I can't hardly force myself to eat in the morning anymore. I'm just not hungry. Yeah, when I eat in the morning, it's not for breakfast. It's just I have my food, and then I know I pretty much have that, and I don't eat all day until later in the day. And sometimes I don't eat the rest of the day, and I'm good. MTB, eat less, move more. Low fat is really just the plant-based agenda. Yeah, for the most part, it is very easy to go right there to the plant-based agenda when you realize that's kind of, telling you not to eat much fat. Well, what has the most fat? It's a lot of kind of animal-based kind of foods. All right, thank you, Instagram. Let's pop on over to my Facebook page, and I'll come to you guys here in a minute on YouTube. Thank you guys for being here. All right, let's see what you guys have to say. What's going on, guys? Norma says, I worked hospice for 10 years, on the road from 10 to 4 most days, always had McDonald's for breakfast and lunch, as well as Subway, hot dogs, fast food of many kinds. Over that decade, I got up to 425 pounds, so eating breakfast did not do me any good. It just made me hungrier. I've done 20 hours of fasting and 4-hour eating window since 2017, lost 140 pounds. Great job, Norma. Keto carnivore saved my life, was headed for being bed-bound, wheelchair-bound. Now I'm able to get up and out, work in my garden and lawn thanks to Jimmy's book, Keto Clarity and the Complete Guide to Fasting. My life has changed tremendously. You're the best. Aw, thank you. That is cool. Thank you for that sweet comment, Norma. Really appreciate that. All right, let's pop over here to my YouTube channel. Again, welcome in, guys. Thank you for being here today. Let's see. Hello, Nurse Feelgood from Indiana. Hello, Deborah from Oregon. Rob says, hey, just listen to your voice for 7 hours straight. Oh my gosh. I am so sorry. Listen to one of my audiobooks. Thank you for that, though. Kim Call says it feels wrong to have book of weight loss tips for elementary school students. Yeah, that was the thing. This is an elementary school textbook. Like, why are we teaching elementary kids about weight loss? Like, you want to talk about giving kids a complex? Putting a whole kind of page in this cooking book. That's the funny part too. Has nothing to do with nutrition and health. It's a cooking book. But they have basic guidelines for losing weight to elementary school kids. They're basically 5 to 10 years old. Why are we telling 5 to 10-year-olds how to lose weight? Talk about setting them up for eating disorders and other kind of issues, and we wonder why we have a disordered relationship with food in this country, and why kids worry about their weight and have all these things, and then they get really bad advice and they're going, I don't feel so good. And then they're like, well, losing weight's crap. If that's what I have to do, I'd rather be fat and happy and eat whatever I want. And most kids do that anyway. There's a few kids that need to be a little more vigilant, but yeah, it's sad. Terry says, hello from Phoenix, loving keto carnivore. Well, I'm glad you're rocking it with your keto carnivore. That's awesome. So guys, that is it. I just wanted to share this from an elementary school cookbook, 2016. Incredible that they're trying to teach kids about losing weight in a cookbook of all things in a public school. So, yeah, it's the reality of the world we're living in now. And unfortunately, we just have to deal with that kind of stuff. It's nonsense, but it is what it is. It's what people kind of are putting out there. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, going on over to JimmyRants.com, you'll see all the past episodes, also on YouTube. Thank you to my YouTubers and my Facebook page, you guys watching this on the replay or watching it live. Thank you for being here today. But go follow me. Instagram is where we start the fun. Over on Instagram Live, we usually go 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. Sometimes I do 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, and sometimes on the weekend. So today you got one of the weekend episodes. Thanks for being here. Go follow me at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVIN LOWCARBMAN. And until next time, we'll see you then.